अभी जब मैं आया तो फैमिली के लोगों से मिलना तो हुआ ही हुआ, लेकिन मुझे 100 साल की यात्रा, एक शानदार एग्जीबिशन देखने का अवसर मिला। मैं भी आप सबको कहूँगा, अगर समय है तो कुछ समय वहाँ बिता करके ही जाना। ये सिर्फ एक एग्जीबिशन नहीं है, मैं कहता हूँ ये एक एक्सपीरियंस है।
Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the Prime Minister talk about the 100-year-long history of Hindustan Times, and he also spoke about an exhibition, which is where I am. I'm Abhishek Singh, you're watching the Hindustan Times, and this is the exhibition that the Prime Minister was talking about. Now, I will let you take a look at that little quote right there, which is of course by Mahatma Gandhi. Every word and sentence published in the paper should be weighed. There should not only be no untrue statements, but also no suggestio, falsi or suppressio veri. This was, of course, Mahatma Gandhi's speech, which he gave in 1924 on September 15th in a 3-storied building on what was then known as the Burn Bastion Road, located very close to Old Delhi railway station. And as you can see, right at the top, on the left-hand corner, that is Mr. G.D. Birla with Mahatma Gandhi. Mr. Birla, of course, was associated very closely with Mahatma Gandhi. He often used to travel to, the modern-day UK back then to convey and carry Mahatma Gandhi's message to the British government and back. And of course, Mr. Birla took over the Hindustan Times later from Madan Mohan Malviya. And as you can see behind me, these are, of course, this is what the Hindustan back then looked like. If you look at the date, that is 15th April 1936, and this is, of course, the headline is talking about the Pune Adivation. If you can see, my camera person can pan and show you the title of that headline. That is, of course, My Experiments with Truth. Now, this was a serialized version of Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography, which was published in the Hindustan Times. And right next to it is, of course, when Congress, this is in 1929, when the Congress resolved to ask for Purna Swaraj, complete independence. And as you can see, perhaps, by now you can tell that this exhibition is all about not just the history of Hindustan Times, which is, of course, now more than 100 years long, but also the history of the country, the history of journalism, the kind of, investigative stories, breaking stories that Hindustan Times has been doing, and of course the role that Hindustan Times played in India's freedom struggle. Now, moving forward, this is a letter which was written by Kasturba Gandhi, of course Mahatma Gandhi's wife, to her son. The letter is addressed, as you can see right here. If my camera person can zoom in, you can perhaps read that it goes something like, Mrs. Kasturba Gandhi has addressed the following appeal to her son, Mr. Harilal Gandhi, and it is her desire that it should receive full publication. Now, this was, of course, a heartfelt letter that Mrs. Gandhi wrote to her son. Next to it is, of course, as you can see, is Dr. Ambedkar, and he is in this picture with his wife. Since we started, we have already covered about 15 to 20 years of a history of the country, and of course the kind of stories that Hindustan Times did during that period. Now, moving forward, as you can see, we are now looking at the headline and the article, the front page of Hindustan Times, when the Cripps mission came to India. The article is all about why the Cripps mission failed, and here Stafford Cripps can be seen with India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, but of course this is much before India actually gained freedom. Now, moving forward, these are, of course, this article, this front page is all about the INA trial, and charges of murder and waging war against King were leveled against Captain Shahnawaz and of course Sehgal and Lieutenant Dhillon, and this front page is from that day when the trial actually opened. Moving forward, here we have, of course, some of the cartoons, the early cartoons that you can see. This one is by cartoonist K. Shankar Pillai, who joined the Hindustan Times in the 1930s. You can see that this, of course, is, on freedom of the press, which of course the British were at that point in time fearing that there could be a backlash caused by the kind of articles that you have seen, that I've shown you until now, which were being published in newspapers like the Hindustan Times, could lead to a revolt against the British. Moving on, this article, as you can see, if my camera person can zoom in, was for the Hindustan Times, written by Subhash Chandra Bose. The article is, of course, on the role that the diplomats can play in determining the foreign policy of a country. Moving next, as you can see, this is of course Mahatma Gandhi sitting on the Juhu beach, and this picture was shared by Deodhdas Gandhi. This is from 1944, when the World War II was still going on, and India's freedom struggle was in, of course, in its final stages, because in 1947, as everybody knows, India got its freedom. Now, the next big event in India's history was, of course, the partition of the country. And as you can see in this picture, which was published in the Hindustan Times on that day, is of people who are arriving in India from Pakistan. Look at these trains, how full they are. Tragedy that the partition was for all of these people perhaps can be seen very clearly in these pictures. And this, if my camera person can come now behind me, these are ads, these are notices which are published by those who had lost their relatives once they arrived in India. So of course, as you can see here, so as you can see here, Dharamveer Anand, ELO, room number 247, block number 7, Directorate General Disposal, Shah Jahan Road. So this is of course the address of somebody who at that point in time got separated from his family, and is of course has put this notice out in Hindustan Times, and this entire scroll carries many such notices. Now some of the things that we have shown you are not exactly in chronological order, simply because of the placement of these scrolls, but having said that, this is, as you can see right here, is a Red Fort, and the crowd has assembled outside in a huge number. That is, of course, India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. And that picture right at the very top is from the very famous speech, which is also known as the Midnight Speech. And these are the pictures from outside the Red Fort. Look at the number of people who had gathered outside to listen to the Prime Minister. India, of course, had gained freedom that day, Pakistan a day before. And this is what the front page of Hindustan Times looked like on that day. India independent. British rule ends. This was a special edition, of course. Now, as you know, on January 31st, 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated. That picture is of the crowd watching the funeral procession of Mahatma Gandhi, which was held on January 31st. And coming down, soon after Mahatma Gandhi's death, Hindustan Times, of course, compiled a rare photo book titled Memories of Bapu, and this is the cover of the book. Here you can see Sardar Patel with, of course, India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Home Minister, the first Prime Minister. Of course, there is Sarojini Naidu over there in the background, and of course, Acharya J.B. Kripalani right here. This picture is from 1946, and that picture is who was staying at the Birla House in New Delhi. This is, of course, weeks before his assassination. And now, 2001 onwards, which is when Michael Keegan, redesigns the Hindustan Times altogether. More colors, graphics, it's more organized, and that's what you have right there. In 2007, of course, Mint, which is the business publication of the group, starts. It was started in collaboration with the Wall Street Journal. And of course, this scroll is also about the 90s. As you can see, that's Aishwarya Rai in 1994, after she made history when she was crowned the Miss World in that year. And now we have come towards the very last segment of the exhibition. As you can see, it represents the transition of what started as a newspaper and now, of course, is a brand which is spread across the digital, video, and of course, print domains. I hope you enjoyed that little walk through history. 100 years of India's history, beginning right in 1924, and of course we're in 2024 now. Not just the history of the country, not just the big ticket events which you saw in the form of, published articles, front pages and pictures, but also the history of journalism, of investigative journalism, of breaking stories, and of course speaking truth to power. I'm Abhishek Singh, you're watching the Hindustan Times.